There's volume now, right?
Should be.
Hey, folks. It's Wednesday evening. 8 o'clock. This is the Fireside Chat. If you are with us, let us know that you're with us.
Catherine says hi.
Hey, Catherine. If you're with us, also take a quick moment, click the share, and let your friends know that you are enjoying the Fireside Chat, and invite them to join us as well, if you're willing to do that.
Catherine says Joy's here too.
Ooh, hey, Joy. I hope I didn't get her all excited hearing her name. So what tea am I working on here?
There's a tag on it that has the name of it on the tag.
It's, taste the flavor of the season. Hashtag tea proudly. Let's see what.
You have to get your glasses on.
Salted caramel. Nice. That's interesting. I'm kind of scared of that. I love salted caramel, but I don't know about a tea that's salted caramel. I mean, if it tastes like salted caramel, I guess it would be enjoyable regardless. It just won't taste very much like tea.
I think it's a black tea with salted caramel.
I just fogged.
So it's going to be like Paris.
It smells
tea.
nice, actually. I've got my Axe Cop mug here. I work the Always shift. Yes, Lindsay's Axe Cop mug that I got her this past year.
Whitney says, good evening.
Good evening.
Because that is a mom thing. I work the Always shift.
The Always shift. Everybody like that? Did you see the kids dressed as Axe Cop for Halloween? Trick-or-treating? Did you see? I don't think you shared that,
did
you?
Share it.
So
I mean, he commented on Facebook
and
on Twitter.
He did. So. Which, because I tagged him on Facebook. But the creator of Axe Cop, who is also he is the artist in residence. I forget what his forget what his specific title is, but he's the artist in residence at the Babylon Bee, Mr. Ethan Nicole, of Bearmageddon fame and Axe Cop fame and of Brave Ollie Possum fame. Mm-hmm. If you've got kids, particularly like smaller kids, not too small. Well, I mean, small kids would be fine, but like 6 to maybe 4 to 9, 10, 11. Brave Ollie Possum is it's high on the list of things to read. Fantastic book, really exciting. I enjoyed reading it to the kids. Speaking of which, we are still working on Ember's Ember Falls. No, Ember Rock. What is it? What is that last one?
Ember Ends.
Ember Ends. Yeah. Ember Ends.
I think that's it.
Woo! Still working on that. Hopefully going to do a little bit of reading of it tonight. And we've been really enjoying that. Something else I've been enjoying with some of the kids has been, how about them Braves? World Series champions. So here's a little fun fact. In 1995, when the Braves won the World Series, I was 14 years old. And I was with my dad, who at the time was 40 years old. I'm now 40 years old. And I was watching with my boy, Aiden, who is 14 years old. Very interesting. Very interesting. And that's just a fun fact. It's not like a sign of anything. Of course, I was, It was just really interesting for me. It kind of put an exclamation mark on watching with my kids the Braves win it all last night. And I knew they were going to do it last night. I had no doubt. Of course, I had no doubt Sunday that they were going to do it Sunday if you were there for the fellowship. So, yeah, if you were there Sunday for Chicks Out Sunday, what'd you think? Did you enjoy the service? Did you enjoy the time of fellowship afterward? How about that meal? Holy moly. Stars and Strike chef laid it all out. What a fantastic Mexican buffet. I thought it was going to be refried beans. They had black beans. That was nice. Was there rice? I don't remember rice. thought they said there might be rice or would be rice, but there's a good queso with some jalapenos in it. Chicken, beef, chips, the burritos,
Catherine says great.
the
Sunday.
tacos. Huh?
Catherine says
Great.
great Sunday.
Oh yeah. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the meal. Enjoyed the guests that we had there. It was really cool. It was really a good day.
Whitney says yes, so very nice of them.
Oh yes. Yes. So something you might remember from Sunday is that we currently have this book on our information table that we're giving out to every family and person that's there that is interested in reading it. It's called Rediscover Church, subtitled "Why the Body of Christ is Essential." And I told you Sunday that I hadn't read it yet, but that I would be reading it ASAP. I have started reading it. I'm about 25 pages in or so. I thought I was going to be able to read it like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but then I realized, I haven't read another book that I really needed to read very quickly. And so I had to kind of push the pause on this guy, but I'm enjoying it so far. And even though there may be places wherein I would disagree with it, it's got a really good, helpful perspective on the importance of the church and how the body of Christ is essential to what God is doing in the world, and essential to what He wants to do in our lives. And so if you didn't get a copy this past Sunday, there'll be a bunch more copies there this coming Sunday, and we want you to take a copy home with you and read it. Please do read it. Any questions, comments that you have, please do share them. Again, let us know that you're watching, please, and then also take a quick moment to share the video with your friends. And we got folks on Facebook and on the YouTubes.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So in just a few moments tonight, I'm gonna try to clarify something that I think was very vague Sunday. And then also I'm probably going to start meddling a little bit. So part of that clarification will involve meddling. I'll go ahead and prep you for that. But as we mentioned this past Sunday morning, these next 2 Sundays are pretty big days also. And so we want you there for worship. If at all possible, there in person. You don't want to miss these next 2 Sundays. Of course, this coming Sunday is the first Sunday of the month of November. And so it's Communion Sunday. We'll be celebrating the Lord's Supper together. But we're going to have our missionary to Honduras, who I don't even know if he thinks of himself as a missionary anymore, because he's becoming a Honduran. He's married a Honduran. He's got half Honduran kids. And
his family was from Honduras originally, weren't they?
Yes, he's Honduras. I'm not sure. That'd be an interesting thing to talk about Sunday for fellowship. Bob Wood is going to be with us for worship. He's going to be there. He's going to be a part of our service. He's actually going to be preaching during our service. And he didn't want to do that, but I wanted him to do that. And Adam always gets his way. I'm kidding. However, I did convince him to preach for us, and I thought that'd be a fantastic opportunity for our people to be able to hear from him. Many of us haven't seen him in like 15 years, but and so you don't want to miss that. He's going to be there for service. He's going to be preaching. He and I are going to be serving the elements of communion together, and so that's exciting. I've never assisted him or had him assist me in communion, so that'll be really, really neat. And it'll be really special having somebody that is a part of the body of Christ as we are, who we don't get to see hardly at all, that we hear from through email and every once in a while a text message or phone call. He and I talk a pretty good bit those ways, but it'd be really neat to be able to be together, fellowship together around the Lord's table, but also breaking bread after worship as we enjoy a meal together. So don't miss this coming Sunday. And then the following Sunday, our very own Mr. Austin Robertson is going to be preaching. And so you do not want to look, this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity for you folks. You get to not hear me preach for a couple of weeks in a row. So you don't want to miss these next 2 Sundays. Be there. Yeah.
Rob Barnes is late, but he's here.
Hey, better late than never, as I always heard. Oh, and he is sharing, you said?
That's what he said.
Oh, cool. Thank you, Rob. Hey, if you did share, let me know. Leave us a comment. Those are like the announcements I wanted to cover tonight. The Braves, the books, and these next 2 Sundays. I literally had, Well, I didn't have any, but I did have them bullet pointed. These next 2 Sundays, what could I even say? Oh, the Braves, books, and be there. I could have just said be there, and then I'd have to remember what am I telling people to be there for? Braves, books, and be there. But these next 2 Sundays, you don't want to miss them. Those were my 3 Trace announcements.
Zenas shared.
Zenas, our resident attorney.
The bulldog.
Huh?
He's a bulldog.
He is a bulldog.
He's
a bulldog. That's what folks know him as, Zenas, the bulldog attorney. At least this folk. So I told you that there was something from my sermon Sunday that I thought was, I forget how I worded it. It was grossly vague, or maybe it would have come across as oddly fitting, and perhaps even misfitting or ill-fitting, or how in the world does this fit in what you're preaching on, Pastor? That's enjoyable. It's like hot, thin, watery liquid caramel.
I would say it tastes like Paris tea to me.
Yeah, but it's got like a brown sugary butteriness more than Paris tea does. That's pretty enjoyable. I didn't think I'd like it. Truth be told.
Well, you get what you get.
I don't pitch fit because I like having tea made for me. Thank you very much, my dear. So the thing that I thought was that, just reflecting back on Sunday, and then also even while I was preaching, you probably don't know. Well, you probably do know. You can probably tell. I'm normally kind of in my head while I'm preaching, and I'm like critiquing myself, and so I'll notice if I say something that's grammatically incorrect, or if I misname someone, or I say something that is factually inaccurate, and I notice because I'm thinking, wait a minute, what did I just say? And so I kind of get in my head, and that's not I guess it's a good place to be as far as like being kind of presently minded in what I'm doing. I don't want to just kind of veg out while I'm preaching and just rattle off stuff, but it also does lead to distraction oftentimes. But while I was preaching, I noticed, I don't think I'm really making the connection all that well. But then I thought, if I try to go back now and elaborate more and make a more direct connection, this sermon's going to end up being like 40 minutes or 50 minutes or so. So I just went with what I had planned, and thought, I'll clean that up Wednesday evening. So here's the question that you might have been asking yourself this past Sunday. What's the connection between apathy, or what we might call sloth? I think in Latin it's actually pronounced sloth. I think it's a long O rather than a short O there. What's the connection between apathy or sloth and consumption? Because you remember, I mentioned that pop cultural figure, Homer Simpson, sitting on his couch with his gut hanging out and his Duff beer in his hand. That's kind of the image of apathy and sloth. And I talked a little bit about consumerism and being consumers and whatnot. And that we're part of being created beings is that we consume. God created us in such a way that we sleep. We need sleep. That we eat. We need food. That we that we consume time. I mean, all sorts of things. So there's nothing inherently wrong with consuming. The question is with consumerism. And the issue there, the issue there is not merely consumption. The issue comes up when we're talking about mindless, unbridled consumption without limits, consumption without checks. And the fact is that we're not really good at it, particularly in modern in our modern Western culture. And by modern, of course, I mean like today, not like modern times, because we're kind of in postmodern times now. I say kind of, we really are. But in the West today, particularly in the first world, we have to learn to practice the art of turning things off, and we're not particularly good at that. We typically consume kind of without reservation, without hesitation, without limit. Binge watching. It's interesting that we refer to binge watching when, it used to be that we talked about like binge drinking in college. I mean, not in my college. I went to a Bible college. There was not a lot of binge drinking there, but we, even the way we talk about how we, not just the extent to which we consume things, but even how we consume them. We binge watch shows on, whether it be Netflix or Hulu or any of the other subscription services we have, or maybe, we've got a bunch of, I used to like binge watch news. Like I would record news programs and then I would be watching them like to catch up. And Lindsay would even like pick at me like, this is news from like 2 or 3 days ago. And it was a show that I really liked, Red Eye. That's how I got connected with Tom Shalhoub of Fox News. But we have a very a uncanny ability to like have zero self-imposed limits upon ourselves, particularly when it comes to the things that we consume. And now, let me warn you first before we go any further. We have a kind of a gross propensity to pick on the preferred overindulgences of others. Like, so if we don't have a problem with overconsumption of food and drink, we would look down our noses. We tend to look down our noses at folks who do. Like, oh my goodness, I don't understand how you could be an alcoholic. I don't understand how you could put your family through that. I don't understand how you could, and not even just food or drink, but also, recreational drugs. But then the question is, okay, well, what about medicines? And look, I'm not trying to give medical advice or anything like that. And I'm not saying that there's no place for medicines or anything of that nature. I'm simply trying to highlight the fact that it is easy for us to, the old adage that our Lord Jesus gave us about, pointing out the speck in our brother's eye when we got this enormous log, this plank in our own eye. Lindsay and I actually started talking the night that she turned 16, and we were at a Plank Eye concert. Do you remember Plank Eye was one of the bands at that concert? Or that show, as I would have called it back then?
I don't
Plank Eye.
think so.
Yeah, Plank Eye. Definitely.
I think I just remembered the Supertones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Supertones, Plank. I forget who the other bands were, but I remember Supertones were like the headline band. Plank Eye was the band I was really excited about being there to see. I loved that one album they had. It was good. But it's easy for us to say, oh yeah, overconsumption. Those folks over there. Oh yeah, people living without limits. Those people especially. Oh, people who live an undisciplined life and who don't practice self-restraint. Let me tell you about my neighbors. Let me tell you about this guy I work with. Those sorts of things. And I've got some bullet points here of kind of some touchy subjects that I wanted to rattle off. Some of these are going to hit you hard or step on your toes maybe. And then others are going to be like, oh yeah, I don't have it. And it's funny how we're able to justify our own and criticize those of others. And that's not to say That's not to say that there shouldn't be any criticism. I'm not saying like, oh, don't judge anything or anyone. Um, but it is to say that we need to be very, very careful in how critical we can be of others and how loose we can be with justifying ourselves. And so things like I've already mentioned food and drink, things like sports. Look, uh, truth be told, I've been tired, really tired for like the last month because I've been staying up really late to watch a lot of playoff baseball. 162 games in a season. There's no way in the world to. I mean, there is. I know there are probably people who do watch every single game and then all the playoffs and whatnot. Now, look, I don't watch any other team's playoff games or anything. I don't care about how any other team is doing. But Braves are in the playoffs. I'm wanting to watch the game. But um, when you're talking about 3 or 4, maybe even 5 games on a Saturday where I'm having to watch all of them, maybe even DVRing, or do they even refer to it as DVRing anymore? Maybe you're TiVoing.
I think that's even older than DVRing.
It is. That's why I said it, because that was like a brand. Yeah. But maybe you're like recording and then you've got to play catch up and you're watching Saturday's football games on Tuesdays and that sort of stuff. And if that's you, look, I hope you're retired. I hope you've got that sort of time on your hands. But you talk about 4 or 5, maybe at a minimum 3 football games on a Saturday that, my goodness, I've got to make sure I watch. And then Sunday, you get to Sunday and, oh man, I've got to watch not just my team play, but I've also got to watch the other games mindlessly, watch those games that are on. And, oh, don't want to miss Sunday night football. And hey, there's Monday night football. And hey, now there's Thursday night football. And, ooh, there's a double header. And so it is possible for us to have to fail entirely in practicing any sort of moderation and self-restraint when it comes to those things that we tend to consume, especially mindlessly consume. Maybe you say, look, I hate sports. In fact, that's why I hate sports. I don't watch sports. What about news? How much do you watch the news? Some folks watch news like it's sport. You watch 3 or 4 hours of news in the evening, every single evening. You might be watching more news than the average, kind of Homer Simpson guy watches football. If you're watching 3 or 4 hours of news every single night of the week, plus reading articles on Facebook and that sort of stuff. So, again, I'm just meddling because I think it's good and healthy every once in a while to be meddled with, and also to point out the things in our own lives that probably ought to be meddled with. But maybe you say, oh, well, look, I don't care about sports. I don't care about news. I'm healthy. I'm not, over consuming food and drink. And like, I'm not on a bunch of prescription meds. And you may say, hey, look, none of that affects me. How about, we mentioned it earlier, television, maybe Netflix shows, or old reruns of Murder, She Wrote, or I'm just being outlandish here now, movie watching, that sort of stuff. We tend to find something in our lives that we will consume and pursue without limit. It's hard for us to say, I'm watching one show of this and then I'm turning the TV off. I about called it the tube off. It's hard for us to
Going
do
back
that.
To the 90s.
The 90s, the old boob tube. Television. Maybe you say, look, I'm not really all that much into watching television. My problem is not screen time. I'm cool with that. How about shopping? Do you shop without self-restraint? Do you and that could be like in-store shopping, it could be screen shopping, it could be even window shopping. A lot of us do these sorts of things as kind of a stress release, an outlet, something that we can just kind of mindlessly enjoy and not think much about. Another thing that might be something that we, particularly in the first world, need to think about is I guess I could nickname it extreme vacationing. Those people who it seems like every other month they're at the beach. And those months that they're not at the beach, maybe they're in Italy, checking out Rome, posting pictures of that. Maybe they went to Alaska for a cruise. Like just constantly in leisure mode, constantly in vacation mode. And you may say, "Oh man, look, that's for like lazy people who need a job, have too much money, and that sort of stuff." Maybe it could be workaholism. The fact that we even have a word called like workaholics or workaholism. I don't even know if that really is a word, but it spell check didn't correct me, and so I was like,
Whitney
I'm going
said,
with it.
Austin says discount divas.
Discount divas. Golly. Watch out, brother. Watch out. Tread lightly.
He feels your pain on that one.
So, you take that up with my wife because she might have put your wife onto that. But, workaholism. I just brought this up to my mouth. I want to drink it. Where your work life is constantly bleeding over into family life. You're at a game, trying to enjoy time with the family, maybe spending a little bit of time with the kids or something, and the phone is constantly, you're having to check it because work is still going on. And that's the interesting thing. Most of us spend far less time on like single focused work, whether it would be, I have to sit and read a few chapters in this book. And so for a couple hours, I'm reading this, and I have no distractions. I'm not trying to also respond to emails. I'm not trying to also check on Facebook. I'm not also pulling up Goodreads and obsessively marking, hey, here's what page I'm on, and then sifting through or what's that called? Scrolling through. Ooh, what books are my friends reading? So most of us, whether it's that or whether it's, hey, I've got to, I'm in the office, I got to clean out my inbox, I'm just focusing on emails and letters and responding and that sort of stuff, or any number of other things. We spend far less time on single focused work than probably we ought, but we spend far more time of work bleeding into family life, work interrupting church life, work emails being responded to at 10 p.m. at night, but also then being checked at 5 a.m. in the morning, getting text messages from the boss, or sending our boss a text message over the weekends when we're supposed to be off, and that sort of stuff. So it's really kind of a weird place that we live in the modern world, particularly because of smartphones, truth be told. And I'm not trying to present them as a boogeyman. They are what they are. They are a boogeyman. Scarier than that, isn't it? The boogeyman in Halloween, Christmas.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
That one, yeah.
Oogie Boogie.
Oogie Boogie. Yeah, Daisy loves Oogie Boogie, doesn't she?
Yes.
Yeah. Smartphones are far scarier things than the Oogie Boogie. And some of you probably have no clue what I'm talking about, and that's fine. You can Google it on your smartphone later. But so what that kind of parallels with, and I know I've mentioned this before multiple times, what that parallels with is we are far more connected, and we have far fewer deep, meaningful, lasting relationships. And so we're connected. We may have 1,200 or 1,500 or maybe even only 200 friends on Facebook or something, and we're following 50 people on Twitter or whatever, and we have very few like real meaningful face-to-face friendships, people that we're actually talking with, even if it's through text message. So we're extremely connected, but not very deeply. I don't want to hear about this.
Friends.
No, I do not. Oh, 1,000. Yeah, I do. I'm a bit of a celebrity.
I was just wondering how many friends you had on.
No, I'm not judging. But here's what I can tell you. Because this does bring me to my next point.
You've got me beat.
Don't smoke crack.
Yes.
I'll finish it tonight because this is the Fireside Chat. This is not worship on Sunday mornings. So I'll tell you this. Yes, I've got 1.5 thousand friends on Facebook. Um, but here's what I'll tell you. I'll tell you. I sound like Donald Trump. I'll tell you. Just tell me, good grief. Um, uh, what I'll tell you is this. I got lost in it again. I do have. I do have very. I think deep. I do have some very deep, meaningful friendships with real people in my real life. I met with some of them today. Uh, three other guys in particular for lunch today. We do that weekly. We're a band of brothers, so to speak, in the Wesleyan sense of the term. We get together weekly. We talk about life. Uh, if we have sin to confess, we confess it. If we have struggles in our lives, we talk about those. We read scripture together. We pray over each other. We had a fantastic time today, hanging out at Rico's Mex Mex. It is Mex Mex. That's their company name, Rico's. But and look, we need that sort of thing, and that's not just preacher preaching about Wesleyan bands. Those are important, but we do need meaningful friendships. We need meaningful relationships in our lives. The relationships that we have with people with whom we worship for gathered worship on Sundays, but also some of those relationships need to bleed over into other days of our week so that we can truly walk through life together and hold one another accountable, hold one another's feet to the fire, challenge one another, pray for one another, uh, encourage one another, strengthen and sharpen one another. We need that. And that's another topic that I brought up on Sunday, the way I preached primarily on the importance of community, because we talked about Jesus in Come and See, inviting us into community and curiosity. And so it's important that we have others connected to us in life. I want to share a story. It was actually in my notes on Sunday, but when I got to it, I decided to scrap it because it was just going to be kind of clunky in there and probably make the sermon also, again, a little bit too long. But it's a story about Dwight Moody. You've heard of D.L. Moody. And then I'll just read it to you. It's a short paragraph. D.L. Moody was visiting a prominent Chicago citizen when the idea of church membership and involvement came up. I believe I can be just as good a Christian outside the church as I can be inside it, the man said. And you've probably heard that. You've felt that sort of like pushback on like, why do I need the church to be a follower of Jesus? So Moody said nothing. Instead, he moved to the fireplace, blazing against the winter outside, removed one burning coal, and placed it on the hearth. The two men sat together and watched the ember die out. After some time, I see, the other man said. That other man was essentially telling Moody, say no more. I get your point. You and I need the heat, the light, the warmth, the fire of being in close fellowship with others and in close community with the people of God. We desperately need it. We need it for the sake of our souls. We need it for the sake of our families. We need it for the sake of our friends and others that we're trying to reach with the good news. We need it for ourselves and for those we love. And just circling back around as is popular parlance today, to Homer Simpson. Think about that image of Homer Simpson. And sorry if you're not a Simpsons fanatic or you've never watched The Simpsons or you just know the name and that's about it. But you remember Homer Simpson, kind of Sunday I mentioned he's sitting alone. He's by himself. He's probably sitting in his underwear, belly hanging out, got his Duff beer. He's on the couch and he's just kind of vegging alone. And people come up, family comes up, Bart, his son, comes up, and he just kind of, and he's just kind of checked out on life. And it's funny, stereotypes normally are funny. That's why we laugh at comedians and their jokes about people. But there's one person in particular that Homer avoids like the plague. Lindsay, who is it? Please don't leave me hanging here. You got to know who I'm talking about.
Flanders.
Ned Flanders. I'm glad you knew that. You're not even looking at my notes. Ned Flanders, his Christian next door neighbor. He avoids him like the plague. And I think, and Ned Flanders he can be an obnoxious character, but I think it's actually really telling. And look, I remember in college, Lorstorfer told us that it was something like 35% of the writers for The Simpsons at that time were self-professing, church-going evangelical Christians, which is one of the reasons why their religious jokes are so on point. Like, they do their homework, they know what they're talking about. And I think the writers of The Simpsons, I don't know if they're the same writers or if there's been so much turnover, but I do think the writers of The Simpsons, they know church and secular culture well enough to know that is Homer's arch nemesis, is the church-going, God-fearing, love thy neighbor, love thy God with all thy heart, soul, mind, and strength Christian like Ned Flanders. We need that. We need people in our lives that maybe they're a little bit obnoxious, but they love us enough to care. They love us enough to knock on our door. Try to do that without shaking the table this time. They love us enough to say, "Howdy ho, neighbor." Talk to us, spend time with us, wave at us. They love us enough to be a nuisance in our lives. We need that, or else we will burn out alone and cold on the hearth of life. Just got very melodramatic there at the end. So what are you thinking? I hope that helps. Questions, comments. We'd appreciate any of that you have. Otherwise, we'll wrap up here in just a few moments. But this has been it's been a fun night. I enjoyed this little chitty chat, as my buddy Chris Willie, and I would say to each other, a little chitty chat with one another. It's been a good fireside chat. As the one that's doing the chatting, I've enjoyed it.
Did you mean to say it that many times, or
chitty chat? Yeah. I was not stuttering. I was not
contagious.
stuttering, Stanley. No, your stuttering is not contagious to me. I think sometimes it affects imaging, but anybody, questions, comments? We really do appreciate you being here with us. What? Anybody got anything? Nope. All right.
What
were you about to say?
One of our kids used to do something weird. Was it Ransom?
Ransom used to stutter like crazy. He still does every once in a while. He'll get kind of caught in a loop. Yeah, especially when he's really excited sharing something with you. Yeah.
Maybe it shouldn't be.
It could be. Well, don't forget, join us this coming Sunday morning. Don't miss it. You do not want to miss it. And then join us the following Sunday. Austin, we're praying for you. And I'm really excited that you're going to be preaching. And knowing what you're preaching on, I'm really excited as well, specifically about that. And we're praying for you as you continue to prepare and whatnot. Alrighty. We're wrapping this thing up.
Sure.
We're landing the mothership. All right. Folks, y'all have a fantastic rest of the week. Blessings to you all.